Well, hi, Rainbow Bright. And I would say welcome to What's Your Saga? Well, thank you for having me, Stephanie. And may I say, you've had many folks on your podcast talking about their life and their goals and how they got to where they were today. Yeah, but I think yours is, truly outstanding. And I'll tell you why. Because unlike everyone else I've had on my show before, I never had someone who, you know, worked. Hold on. Yeah, I never had someone who worked for God and Jesus before. Well, yes, I do work for God and Jesus. You don't get gilded with gold the same way that if you work for someone else. But I've been working for God and Jesus for about 40 or 41 years, bringing cast and light and brightness into the world. And trust me, it's not a work that, anyone can, put their look and help needed cast bearer or light bearer or something. So how did it happen? Well, as you know, I never knew who my mother and father were. They died when I was young. I lived in a bearer's house until at least I was 6 or 7. I don't know. I do know I lived with my mother and father up until about 7 when they died. And, well, no one wanted to take me in, so I went to a bearer's house. And it's not an I always wanted to do something to help the world. I always had deep belief and love and trust in God and Jesus. My mother and father told me that many times before they died. So one day God came to me, or more like a glowing round light came to me and told me that if I wanted to do something good for the world, choose to go to Rainbow Land and bring cast light and brightness to it. And yes, I chose to do it. Now, a lot of folks will say, how do you know that glowing light was God? Well, no one truly knows what God looks like. Well, that's true. Isn't it true, Wisp? Because that was your name and still is your name. That when you came to Rainbow Land, you befriended Twink here and Starlight? Oh, yeah. Wisp met me 40 or 41 years ago. Back when her name was Wisp, and which I guess it still is Wisp. And we went out to seek what she called the Sword of Light. And we had to do all kinds of things. Weird, crazy birds, two-headed lindworm. Oh, you name it, we may have had to deal with it. And we also befriended Starlight over here. More like we freed Starlight. Yeah, Rainbow Bright saw me. I was frozen by the King of Shadows, and she gave me a hug. And that's all it took for God and Jesus to free me from the ice that the King of Shadows had put me into. And we had a saga. We went through what's known as the No Comeback Waterway. But it wasn't dry, but then it started flooding. And we would have been on a bridge, but Merkwell, Dismal, and Lurky broke that bridge, so back in the water we went. And we almost drowned. You're right, Starlight and Twink. That was one of the first binds we seeked ourselves in. And I thought I lost you two. And I asked God and Jesus to send me back if I couldn't do my goal. But luckily, God and Jesus sent a a weird looking fish, you know, to to take me to shore. And that's where I seeked Baby Bright. Now, Baby Bright, we didn't know where she came from. We didn't know who her mother and father were, but we chose to take care of her. She led us to the hollow, where I seek the cast strap. But not only that, I seek Red Butler, who was binded into that. So you started to seek the cast kids. Yes. First, we seek Red Butler. We had to go help Patty O'Green, who was somehow in a nest in a tree of a weird looking bird. We had to get her out of that. Canary Yellow was stuck in big trees, being overseen by a two-headed lindworm, and both of them had their own mind. One of them was angry. The other one wanted to eat too much. Wanted to eat. So we got it to spin its heads around. It flew around, and we got Canary Yellow out of there. Well, we'll just say Twink says, as you said, Rainbow, we were lucky to get the first two. As far as we got Shy Violet, but as far as getting the other ones, Merkwell Dismal already seeked, Indigo and Lila Orange and Buddy Blue wherever they were at. But we did seek out and get Shy Violet. She'd been binded to a seat with blowers blowing fake fiends at her. And after we got the other cast kids, we had to get Baby Bright back, which led to Rainbow Bright fighting the King of Shadows. Yes, Twink, it led to me fighting the King of Shadows, who believed that he was the evilest being in the world. But through my rainbow strap, God and Jesus worked with me and through me to beat him. And that's when I learned that Baby Bright was also the Sword of Light, which was also God. And the King of Shadows was beaten. And then God told me that all the cast and all the brightness and all of the light of all worlds would be entrusted to me, and that I would have to fight those who would wish to take the light away. And I said, I will. And God said, I know you will. And I said, I will. And God told me my name forever. God told me that my name after forever that day would be Rainbow Bright. And he put that star on my cheek. Well, that's quite a saga, Rainbow Bright or Whis. I've had many folks on my show about, about their life sagas, where they came from, how they got to be where they are now, their goals, their dreams. But I have never met someone who was entrusted with the cast and light and brightness in the behalf of God and Jesus. Well, Stephanie, everyone in this world has their dreams and hopes. They got their saga, their back saga of where they came from and where they are now and where they're heading. And even though none of them, a lot of folks in this world can't say that they were chosen to be God or God and Jesus' light bearer, their sagas and their tales are just as wonderful. And what they do is just as outstanding as what I do. Well, I want to say thank you. Rainbow Bright Wisp, for coming on to my podcast today. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having us, Starlight says. It's the only time you've ever had Starlight, the greatest horse that God ever made, on your podcast. Well, thank you, Twink says. It was the first time we ever got to be on a podcast, and you would think after 40 or 41 years we would have been on a podcast. Thank you, Stephanie, for asking me to come on here and tell my saga about how I became Rainbow Bright, how I was entrusted with the cast and light and brightness of all worlds, and then work for God and Jesus in doing that.